Hello there, J-Music here, and today I'll be talking about Star Wars The Mandalorian Season 2.5. Wait, what? No. Hello there, J-Music here. Today I'll be talking about Star Wars' latest Disney Plus series, The Book of Boba Fett. And as always, I will go into spoilers in this review, so if you haven't watched the series yet and you don't want to be spoiled, click off the video and come back when you have watched it. But if you have watched the series or you just don't mind spoilers, feel free to continue on watching. The Book of Boba Fett takes place after Mandalorian Season 2, and it shows Boba Fett taking over the crime underworld of Tatooine. And as depicted in the trailers, this show is going to lean a lot into the crime underworld, a lot of the shady stuff going on in the underworld, and for some parts, this series does show that, but it also showed something that I didn't really expect that we are going to get. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about what we got in this show. Some positive, some negative. It's really 50-50 for me because this show really made me feel conflicted on what I'm supposed to feel about it because like usually I either feel that I like it or either I don't like it. I never really felt something so conflicted towards any movies or series. So anyways, let's get into the good. And the good about this series is that it gives Boba Fett character. Of course, for some, it might be a bad thing because, as we all know, Boba Fett was introduced as this mystery character, this mysterious character that you don't know much about him. And I think for some, that is what made this character work for them. But for me personally, I think having some character to him is a good thing. But that is just my personal opinion. However, the way that the character was executed was a bit lacking, and I think this is mainly because that the show was split into too many different segments that it kind of drowned out the main focus from Boba Fett. So while I like that Boba Fett got some character, the execution was somewhat underwhelming. And another thing that I like about this series is that they humanize the Tusken. It shows them in a more human way that we really didn't get before. I mean, we got some of it in Mandalorian where we see Mando interacting with the Tuskens, but we never really see them in this type of more human way. And I think that was a big part of me that drew me in this show, because that was also a big part of the show as well as a big part for Boba Fett's character. And ultimately, I didn't really like how they did the Tuskens at the end because I feel like they could have done more, but they didn't go for it. And this kind of sums up the whole series for me. That is like they could have done more in certain aspects, but they didn't really go for it for the sake of other storylines. And I will get to those other storylines in a minute. But yeah, I really like what they did to humanize the Tusken Raiders. I just didn't really appreciate how they ended that. Now, I'm going to get into a lot of mixed opinions because most of my opinions on this show is pretty mixed. Like, it's neither good or bad. And the first thing I must mention is the inconsistencies in the quality and the pacing. And well, I'm not sure what is up with the budget because I've seen better CGI in this Disney Plus series. For example, that speed bike chase scene in episode 3 with the mods and some Twilight guy. It looks so bad, honestly. It looks like the speeders weren't even going as with speed even. It looks like a slow chase. And I'm not sure why, but that is how it is. But anyways, other than that, about the pacing, I think that this whole series felt too chunk. Like, we have 4 episodes focusing on Boba Fett's character in the past, and we have 2 episodes focusing on the Mandalorian, Din and Grogu, and we only have 1 last episode to wrap everything up. So the pacing issues is a bit obvious in this series, and even in the episodes that are connected to each other more, the pacing just felt off, not just as a whole series, just in the episode as well. And I'm not sure why to that. I mean, some episodes did really well. I'm going to get to which episode later, but for the most part, the pacing in this series felt a bit off. But it's still enjoyable, but I just feel like they could have done more to keep things running smoother. Another thing that I felt like the pacing affects really badly is the lack of an actual feeling of threat in the series. Like, we know that the Pikes are the main threat of the whole show. They are the enemy, but we feel nothing from them. Well, almost nothing from them until the last few minutes of the second final episode. So because of that, you don't really feel that the Pikes are a threat, and to be honest, you don't really get why it's so important to make sure the Pikes doesn't take over Tatooine. I mean, of course, it is explored in the Clone Wars that the Pikes is a dangerous organization, a dangerous group. But in this show, if someone was going into this show without watching anything from before, they will not even understand. I mean, of course, some might be able to piece it together, some might not. But for me, I feel like they should have built up the threat a bit more better. And another thing is that other than the threat of the enemy, the threat of the villain is not there, the whole story structure is all over the place. We had the first 4 episodes talking about the past of Boba Fett when he first lost his armor and all that with the Tusken Raiders. And then halfway throughout the show that is titled The Book of Boba Fett, we have 2 episodes that completely focus on another 2 characters. And then the final episode, the intention is like half focused to Boba Fett, half focused to Mandalorian. So, like, it loses the consistency, the pacing, the focus of the audience as well. So, the whole show is all over the place. And not only that, it also moves focus away from Boba Fett, who is supposed to be like the main character of the show. And also, I just realized that I've been talking all negative of this show, but actually, I do not hate this show. Let me get this clear. I do not really like think that the show is outright bad. No, it has its good point, and I'm going to state some of the good points right now because I somehow didn't get to it in the beginning of this video, but whatever. So, good points, and somehow the good points of this show is actually the episodes that is focused on the other characters. And well, when I'm talking about other characters, I'm talking about the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and Grogu. So I like that the story they go for is basically Mandalorian season 2.5. I like that. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like that they did that story, but I'm not sure whether it's suitable to put that in this show. I mean, like, I cannot see how it would fit or not fit to make the story flow, because you cannot do this whole series without explaining where Mando is and suddenly having coming in episode 7 or something. You can't have that. But at the same time, if you do this in the middle of a show like this, I feel like it's going to be a bit of out of place. Not only for the whole series as a whole, it also pulls focus away from Boba Fett, like I said earlier. So I'm like, it's a bit confusing on what to do about this, but I think the way they handle is much more acceptable in a way, more better than them having Mando coming in out of nowhere and having Grogu coming in out of nowhere. So I suppose from that angle, where their story need to be known before they get involved in Boba Fett's story, from that angle, I think that it is acceptable, but I kind of wish there was a better way to do it though. Maybe they could have done it like in Clone Wars. There's a lot of different storylines going on and all, and then some of them eventually go together, and some characters meet up with another. So maybe they could have actually titled this The Mandalorian. So other than those two episodes, episode 5 and episode 6, the final was grand. It had a lot of spectacle, a lot of action, but ultimately it felt rushed. I mean, we have Cad Bane showing up and all, and Boba Fett riding on the Rancor. There's a lot of wow and applause. Oh no, a core of a series is to tell a good story. A decent story, at least, if you will. The action and the spectacle, if you have that, that's good. But what is most important for me, personally, is a story that goes well. And I'm not saying that the story in this series was bad. It's not. But I'm just saying that they could have done something to make the final flow better. Overall, I just feel like they could have done a better job of ending the series. So overall, this show is a mixed bag for me. I will not say that it's totally negative, but I will not say it's really good either. So it's in the middle for me. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the book of Boba Fett, whether all over the place thoughts like the show actually. Anyways, what do you think about this show? Did you like it? Maybe you hated it, or maybe you have some thoughts that you want to speak up? Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below.